right, so welcome back, World Paranormal Research Society. We have Phil and PJ from Paranormal Awakenings Ireland joining us again today. So, how you fellas doing?
Good, Tim. Very good, thanks.
Oh, that's good. So you here with Timothy and Alexandria, and so what we're going to touch on a little bit, PJ, is that I know that y'all are running some experiments with the thermal and the SLS to try to weed out any false positives. Can you explain a little bit on what you're doing?
Yeah, all right. I suppose it's a little complicated. A lot of paranormal teams are using the SLS camera now. In fact, most of them are. And the SLS camera is getting a lot of publicity. It seems any team that has an SLS camera, when they go out, you'll always catch something on the SLS, which is kind of peculiar because before we started using SLSs, we go out with our ordinary night vision camcorders or even just our smartphones or whatever we'd have, and we'd sometimes get nothing at all. But with the SLS, all that changed. Everybody seems to be catching everything every single time they go out. So
yeah,
that itself is a problem.
Yes.
And when they do get an image on the SLS, they never seem to have a single photograph from an ordinary camera, still camera, or a camcorder, or a phone.
Or even a thermal imaging, thermal imaging is good.
Anything to back it up.
Yes.
So we'd say we'd have one black and white photo or color, and we'd have one SLS, but it doesn't happen. So I had a row with you one stage about it. I actually got hurt when you started knocking the SLS, because I really believed in the SLS. I believed in the SLS myself wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I know
especially
you did.
when I went to the trouble of making one. I know I don't mess with it and I don't fake anything. But the truth of the matter is, if I get a picture on the SLS, I have nothing to substantiate that picture. And so lately I've been finding that I've been getting an awful lot of false positives on the SLS, whereas before I would have thought that it was a genuine capture. Now I'm beginning to see a lot of the stuff for what it actually is, false positives.
See, that's good that you recognize that, but a lot of people that are using it don't recognize that. And you've got a lot of experience with SLS, and for you to say that, it is always good to have secondary verification from any other piece of equipment to verify that the evidence is real,
Well, that's what we're going to work on now as part of several experiments, not just one. I'll be doing quite a few. So I am using a thermal imaging camera now. And unfortunately, I did use it only last week down in a monastery in Con, Ross Early, and it was a bad night. We hardly ever even got a catch on the SLS, which was most unusual, apart from one false positive.
Yeah.
But the thermal image camera got nothing at all. So the night just wasn't good for trying to do the test I wanted to do. There was no activity, so it was a bit of a failure.
Yeah.
But I've since invested now in other cameras, night vision and thermal, and I'll have them here around mid-April, I think.
Yeah.
And they'll be fairly powerful cameras, very, very powerful cameras.
Well, going into like you said, you was using thermal last week, and that's what kind of brought up doing this show. Is that I want to let the audience know that's listening right now that you actually had just ran a thermal test and you sent me the clip pretty much right away. And when you sent me that clip, it was a 31-second clip. Immediately, I seen that in the thermal you had faces. So I'm going to put those up on the screen. And I thought that was very powerful, like some of the faces that you actually see in the photograph.
Scary, all right, Tim. It's scary, all right,
Yeah.
And it proves that the thermal image camera is capable of catching an entity or a spirit or anything paranormal is capable of catching it just as much as the SLS, or perhaps far, far better.
Yeah, well, you know, the fact that you had just shot that and sent it to me, if you look at the photographs, one of the faces that I'm put right here that's rather large, it's looking down, and you can see to the left, the hair is back flowing, and you can see the chin, the eyes, the nose, you can see everything. It was huge, man. It's almost like it was right in front of the camera.
Yeah,
And, and
yeah,
if I could
yeah.
interject, PJ, when I seen that first image, the big image there, uh, the big image that I seen, to me right away, it looked like even a Roman type of a face with the very pronounced nose and everything, just
That's
like.
right. Yeah, yeah. We're looking at that now. We can see it. It is very pronounced. Rather large nose. Yeah. Yeah, and a chin. He's got a fairly long chin as well. Chin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now what Alexandria is looking at, PJ, is a different photo. The one I was talking about was the one that has the circle's not completed, but you can see it's looking down. But if you go back, this will be the second largest photo. I'll put it up on the screen right here, and she's right. You can actually see the hair, the chin, the nose, and the forehead, and even the brow. That's a
Yeah.
powerful image, man.
Well, I am very, very happy with it, considering I was only just doing
A test.
a dummy run, really. A dummy run, yeah, just to see if it would work. And here we go. We've got evidence, you know.
Now I just want to make sure that can you turn to the second biggest circle, that one that I sent you?
They're all up in a heap here now. I have to go back.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you're looking at the same one, because there's two large circles. One of them's an incomplete circle, but the one I'm talking about right now,
Yeah.
that Alexandria was looking at.
Full circle now. Full circle now, yeah.
Yeah, you see the nose, the mouth, the chin, the forehead, the
And very,
brow,
very prominent, yes.
because you can see
It
the
looks like, it
profile.
actually looks like a negative. It looks like a negative from an old photograph.
Yeah,
Really,
it does.
that's what it looks like. Big mop curly hair. Yeah, it seems to be curly or wavy hair.
Yes, yes, that is
Like
powerful.
Sorry.
I consider that like some great evidence, you know, of the paranormal, man. That's really good. And then if you look at, go ahead.
Yeah, it started off as just a theory, you know, Tim, and here it is in practice now. It seems to be paying off.
Oh yeah, but I want you to go back now, PJ, to the one that has two circles that's kind of further away.
Got it, yeah.
And then if you look at if you actually look on the right-hand corner of that circle, you can see partial of an eye, the partial nose, and the mouth looks like it's frowning. And, and then when you go to the left and you go and look at that head, it's a rather weird looking head there, to the left.
Kind of a murky smile on it. Yeah. So that's quite a few images in one little shot, one little clip.
Oh yeah, man. There's way more than that in that 31-second clip. We're only showing a few of them, but
yeah. Now, even looking at the one here with the full circle, I can see other figures above that on the right hand top corner. I can see another fairly clear face staring back at me.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you would think that. You know?
Directly above it, to the right, you can make out the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and then to the left of that, there's another face. There's four actually on the top. I don't know if people can actually make those out, but the other two are very clear, like you said.
They are, yeah. They're very, very clear. I'm delighted. I mean, this only started off as an experiment, and here we go. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you need to run a full-scale investigation there, man, because I know that you were testing the equipment, and you've caught some amazing stuff there.
There could be a little problem with that, Tim, because it's in a residence.
Yeah, I know.
So anyway, I will have a word with the powers that be and see what happens.
Okay. And real quick, because I know Alexandria hasn't heard it yet, but if we could, do you have the EVP right there with you?
Which EVP are we referring to now?
It's from a different location that you did.
Oh, right. Yes. Duckett's Grove, one of my most favorite places of all time.
Yeah. This will be Alexandria's first chance hearing this. If you could play one of those, that would be great.
I'm going to need a second to find it now.
Okay.
We have two. One seems to be of a child, and the other one was probably an adult. No, where in the name of God are they gone? Just when you want them, you can't find them. I might get them here, possibly. Okay, I'm going to try and get them closer so you can hear them.
Okay.
And get them closer so you can hear them.
Okay.
Down in the kitchen area of Duckett's Grove is down in the basement. It's one of my most favourite places. Now I have a second one from the same night in the exact same place. And this appears to be from a little kid. I don't know is it male or female, but I'm going to play it round about now. Did you catch that, Tim? Well, that's it exactly as recorded. I didn't enhance it. I didn't do a thing. That's exactly as recorded. But the words are, I want to. I want to.
Okay.
And it is a kid's voice.
Awesome. And so, you know, one of the things that I wanted to touch on was that I don't know if a lot of people listening realize that magic, which included in ancient times invoking spirits and angels and entities of various kinds, and communicating with spirits, that was all the way up to the year 500 AD. After 500 AD, there was a great effort to get rid of this type of stuff that you know that we're now rediscovering today. But even before the earliest civilizations, people used to do this. And why did they used to do this? Why was magic, spells, and using spirits and different entities and so-called gods, lesser gods back in the day so popular thing to do? It's because it worked. It was real. And it is real. It's very real.
So there's a good chance that Merlin was a real, live, living witch back in his day. In England, Merlin.
You know Merlin.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to, I guess, another word for alchemy, because alchemy, it's you know, Greek fire and all that stuff, doing that stuff. So magic has been around basically probably since the beginning of time in one form or another, under one name or another. Every you know, civilizations. I mean, even the Druids and all that practice a form of you know, different kind of magic, or
they did, and voodoo, and you know, there's all the different cults in the world have different religions and they have different forms of magic.
Exactly. Yeah, and to know that it predates civilization even, and I mean, and it went all the way up to the year 500 AD before there was this concentrated effort to try to wipe it away. And then when you come up to the 1600s, that's when you have like different, only really people that was in the royal families that were actually using this stuff. And then, when you bring it into modern times, people like to say, "Ooh, you ain't supposed to do that." Well, no, actually, in ancient Judaism, we do know that white magic was absolutely permitted. Actually, if you look at the Talmud and you look at the Jewish mystics, Jewish mysticisms, so there was a form of white magic that was permitted.
There was indeed, but then you had the darker side of it as well. Even the pharaohs in Egypt, they had guys there doing magic for them, fortune telling or whatever. They had it all.
Well, yeah, and then to put it into perspective for a lot of our listeners out there, paranormal research years and years ago would have been maybe considered dabbling in the dark arts or something, because you know, leave you know, sleeping dogs lie, as the saying is. Why are you trying to deal with spirits and all that, that would have been shunned on many, many years ago.
It still is to this very day. I mean, the Catholic Church shuns people who dabble with paranormal stuff. You can't go to a medium. They wouldn't like what I'm doing either, and I am just what you might call a nosy busybody, really, because I don't dabble in the dark arts, but I still have a curiosity about paranormal entities, you know.
Well,
but my parish priest would not like it, nor my bishop. They wouldn't like it.
Well, I think they would find some disagreement with the Pope, because if you go back and listen to some of the Pope's interviews and speeches that he's done, I found it interesting that he said that somebody asked him, does he believe in ghosts? And he said, well, spirits are absolutely real. There's no question about that. Now we just got to see what we can learn from them. Well, how would you see what you can learn from them unless you were doing the work that we're doing today, which is one of the reasons why we ourselves used to be contacted by an archdiocese and sent out to certain locations to validate hauntings, but we did some research there. And so what you're doing, the research that you're doing in Ireland, is very important to the overall understanding of everything. As the Pope said, what can we learn from them? So what does he mean when he says that? But yet his priests don't want you to do it. It's the same thing when it comes to the Jewish synagogues. The rabbis, if you go ask them about magic, they'll pretty much deny that this is real, but they just started teaching it again last year, and so it's very much a part of their ancient Judaism. I mean, you know, but why do they lie about it? I don't know.
Well, they don't want the average man on the street dabbling in stuff that he knows nothing about. It can be dangerous, as we all know. And these guys kind of like to run a private club and keep it to themselves.
I have a question for you, PJ, because a lot of our listeners are curious about Ireland, Scotland, you know, all the Celtic countries. When you mention your parish priest, there's so many legends and there's so much folklore in Ireland. So would that mean that the parish priest, they don't believe in banshees, all the folklore that's steeped since the beginning of time, or is that just because they shun it as the pagan beginnings of Ireland? And you know, if somebody talks about fairies, banshees, and all that, the parish priest just doesn't want to recognize it.
Well, the parish priest is only a man, and he would have been a kid like any other kid growing up. He would have had mom and dad like every other kid, and he would have heard all these stories as a child growing up, and he would have believed them long before he ever decided he was going to become a priest. Now, once he decides he's going to become a priest, and he starts going to college, doing his theory, all this stuff is blocked out of his mind. He's not allowed to even think about it anymore, never mind speak about it.
Yeah.
But up till the time he decided he was going to be a priest, it was spoken about all the time. From his parents, his grandparents, his aunts, his uncles, they would have all have talked about it, because there was a time here we did not have TV, we didn't even have a radio, and that's what went on in most houses. Was stories, fairy tales, a bit of drinking, a bit of singing, a bit of dancing, but the storyteller was famous, and most stories were always about hauntings or banshees or the headless coachman and stuff like that. And, you know, these were popular tales. They still are to this very day. And secretly, the priest does believe in them, but he's not allowed to say so.
Yeah. I know that when we were doing work for the archdiocese, one of my friends was a Catholic priest, and I used to go into his office. I'm not a Catholic myself, which is why I think he opened up more to me. But we used to have conversations about, the paranormal. And he absolutely believed in the paranormal. In fact, the only reason he became a priest is because he wanted to become an exorcist. And
Right.
and so obviously he probably, I'm not going to say his name because I'm quite sure he would never admit that to anybody in the Catholicism, but he definitely told me this. And so
Yeah, well, I've been to one exorcism here myself in Ireland. Here in this very town in Galway, there was only one exorcist priest in the whole town of Galway. It's actually a city. It took me a while to find him, but I got him, and I was present at an exorcism that he did because it was for a friend of mine, and I was there throughout the whole process. And some of the stuff I heard, you just couldn't make it up, you know.
Yeah.
And he was no doubt about ghosts and spirits, because we had to visit the priest with this person who had the problem on several occasions before the exorcism was actually carried out. And I heard so many stories, and the priest never doubted this young man for a second. He believed every single word that was told because he'd heard it all before in different shapes and different forms. But the stories are very, very similar. And
yeah,
I learned a few things. I'll tell you, I learned a few things. I still have some of the oil that he blessed, the special rite he did, and the salt, exorcism oil and exorcism salt. I still have some in my kit that I bring with me now. And I said, what will I do when I run out? He said, young man, you'll never run out. All you got to do is keep topping the holy water up with ordinary holy water, the salt with salt, and the oil with oil. You'll never run out. That's what he's told me. And I bring it with me in my kit, always.
You know, speaking of kits, I'd like to ask both of y'all, what do you consider, and I know we talked about this in the last show, but just to remind people, what would be the 4 basic items that somebody starting out to do paranormal research in your mind, or let's don't even say research, because most people that start out doing this, they go as hobbyists and they call it ghost hunting, right? So if somebody wants to do a weekend ghost hunting trip, what do you think the 4 tools that they should have are?
For a start, I hate that term ghost hunting. I don't like it at all.
Well, no, y'all are paranormal investigators. Y'all are paranormal investigators. We understand that.
We don't hunt. We investigate.
Yes.
A basic EMF tool, a kit too. They're only cheap, a few dollars, or in our case, a few euros. A middling good quality camera, or failing that, a good smartphone. Take as good as picture as any, better than some cameras actually.
Yeah.
They don't really need much. A dictaphone. Dictaphone would be very handy for recording EVPs and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
And that's it. Those 3 tools really are basically, but the more you can get, the better. But a lot of people are looking at different sites. I don't rename a site now, whatever, but sites to sell equipment. And they're selling a lot of rubbish, and they're making absolute fortunes.
Oh, yeah.
They're selling, for instance, an SLS camera. You can buy that on the net. You'll pay a fortune for it, whereas you can build one yourself for very little, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do it. There are pages on YouTube you can check up there, and it'll show you how to build one.
Yeah.
So it cost you nothing really, but you would need a good recorder. That's the very basic requirement for EVPs, and just to record the events of the night, even if you don't get an EVP.
Now, PJ, I know that you do work, like you do a lot of work on various like stuff and buildings and stuff like that. I'm assuming that you have a good voltmeter, or if you want to call it EMF meter.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
For me, I use. I like to use a digital one, but I like to use the more expensive, like handyman type voltmeter, you know, like something that a pro electrician would actually use. I think that you get a better quality reading than the cheap little analog ones. I don't think that you really get a good reading on that, because anything can jar that. Anything can set that off, you know, a cheap analog.
Anything at all. Even your phone will mess with that, because your speaker on your phone has a little magnet, and that's going to set it off. You know, you've got to be very, very careful about having your phone with you when you're out on these investigations anyway, because if you do have an EMF meter, or better known as the K2, your phone will also interfere with your K2 and give you a false positive reading. Yeah. It's very, very easy to by. And so you need to be at least 2 or 3 meters away from your K2 if you have a phone on your person, or else leave the phone down somewhere. You know, because if they're anywhere nearby to each other, it will set off the EMF meter and give you a false reading. You think you've got activity when you actually haven't. It's just your phone. We've had many
moments when we were out where, like, I absolutely love the K2. I always have. Even when I was starting off, and we'd always get a lot of people commenting, "Oh, your phone's too close. It's this, that, and the other." And what we're trying to do lately, and the last while is, or what I try and do is, I stay well back from it, and I'll zoom the phone in towards it just to be sure. I'm like, even on clips, and PJ will tell you, I'll be like, it's the phone that's doing it. Oh no, we're not close enough, and it's like we have to check it while we're live or while we're on site. And just to make sure it's not a false positive, and it's an actual reading, and we leave down the K2 and the whole lot. Because again, it is very easy to see it and be like, oh, that's something there now. But you always got to check your premise and make sure nothing's interfering with it at the time.
Yeah, as you say, do a base reading of the area that you're doing.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really prefer, and I know that there is cheaper ones that people can buy, but I recommend going to a hardware store and getting an actual real voltmeter.
Yeah, pay a little extra and get a good proper one. Yeah. You're better off.
Yeah, because you'll get a good reading off of that. It's just like a temperature reader. You can go get a pro grade temperature reader. But I mean, you know, but like you were saying earlier, there's so many online stores that are selling cheap stuff in these kits, and
That's what they're doing.
yeah, but you know,
And I think we're going to discuss some of the experiments that you were doing. I think our listening base would probably be interested in some of the experiments that you've been doing.
Well, the only one I've been doing as of late is the thermal imaging camera. But as I say, I have bought some new stuff. It should be here around mid-April. These will be night vision cameras and thermal image cameras. And I'm going to work all of these. I'm going to have a thermal image camera going with the SLS. I'm going to have a night vision camera running with the SLS. And then I'm going to have another night vision camera recording all of those three working together.
So you're gonna make damn sure.
It sounds a bit complicated. Yeah, it sounds a bit complicated, but it's not. It's just all about cameras. Both cameras and having them in the right place.
And it's all about verification too, because if you get secondary verification, then you got something good, you know.
That's it.
I mean, that's awesome. And yeah, man, you sent me a clip of, and I don't want to say too much about it, but you sent me a clip of a location, an upcoming location you have. And for the folks listening, I think this is going to be a very special treat for everybody out there, because there was an item. So the people were standing outside of this place, and there was an item that actually flew off the shelf by itself, just off the shelf. The camera captured a mist-type apparition, I would call it, and then the camera was ripped down. Nobody ripped it down; it was just ripped down. This seems like a very good location that you got lined up for next month.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to name it because it's a business.
No, I know.
We have no doubt that there is poltergeist activity going on there, and it's going to be a privilege for me to go and try and film it and catch it.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I can't really say too much more about it, but I've sent you some of the evidence that I have got from the people there, and it's fairly genuine, it's fairly straightforward, and I'm just hoping that I can witness some of this for myself. Oh. And then I will get permission from the people to maybe clip it, and once I post it anonymously, I don't think I'll have a problem.
Well, I think they're gonna.
I need permission to do that. You know.
They're probably gonna want the place cleansed too, because it's causing the poltergeist is causing a lot of destruction in there.
Yes, they will want it cleared.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you this. I want to go back to the EVP clips some more, because we didn't set the stage on what that was. On that location, can you describe to the people where that location was, a little bit more about details? Yeah, the ones that says "I want to," and then the other clip.
Right. It's in a place called Duckett's Grove. It's a massive mansion stroke castle in County Carlow here in Ireland. And we're down in the basement in the kitchen area. That's where we are. It's so big, you'd never actually get to investigate the whole place in 2 nights. It's that big. And I mean, if you're from 6 p.m. in the evening until 8 a.m. the next day, you do that 2 times over, and you still wouldn't have completed the amount of work that's there to do, because it's not just inside the building, it's outside the building. There's large gardens, well-maintained gardens, there's tunnels, there's bridges, there's a forest. It's just massive. You'd probably want the guts of a week to do it justice. Yeah. It's that big. And apart from that, it's a magnificent building to look at as well.
Yeah.
We were in the tower. Now, I sent you a couple of other clips that I believe were shadow figures. One was up in the tower, the high tower of Douglas Grove. It's a couple of 100 feet high.
What do you feel like anything since the last time we talked to you has maybe followed y'all home, or maybe is interrupting your daily life in some kind of way?
Well, I get that all the time. Well, not every day, no, but I get it quite a lot. And I have to go and see a friend of mine. She's a Belfast lady. She's a medium. She does a bit of cleansing on me every now and again. And I don't actually have to go and visit her in person.
Oh, okay.
She can do it long distance, put it that way. I just tell her what's going on, take a photograph of my aura and send it on to her. And she does whatever she does, and all is good. But there's been a couple of times where she had to pay me a visit and deal with it, you know?
Yeah.
These would be strong, stubborn guys.
Yeah.
And yes, they can upset your health big time. They can make you very depressed. They can cause you, if you want to believe it, want a better word, they can cause serious bad luck.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing will go right for you. Nothing will go right for you. The smallest things won't go right for you. And as I say, they can mess with your health big time. And especially if you have health issues in the beginning, they can play on them and make them worse. Yeah. And you don't realize this is happening. It's the people around you who can see the changes coming on you. But you're the last person to know, really.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I was studying ancient Mesopotamia yesterday, actually. And one of the beliefs that they had was that spirits could definitely have an impact on your organs, especially your liver.
Yeah, on your heart.
In your heart, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because you feel heaviness. You feel heaviness is either on your shoulders or your chest area. That's them guys messing with your heart. That's what it is.
Yeah. I think it could affect your mood, too.
Big time. Yeah. You get seriously depressed. And you don't know why, because you can't actually put your finger on why. Things might be going well in general for you, but there you are still going around misery guts, and you don't know why.
Yeah.
And you're upsetting people. You're bad-tempered, ill-mannered, all kinds of things, and you don't realize it because it's happened to you. But the people around you who know you, they know what's happening, but they don't know why it's happening, because they may not believe in what we believe in.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's nothing that a pill is going to cure. You know, a pill won't cure this. No. There's no pill made for it. I only expected really to be dealing with SLS stuff, but we've kind of gone the long way around it, haven't we? We've mentioned a few little bits and pieces now.
Yeah, because I didn't want to focus too much on SLS, because we've been beating that to death, I think. But
well, we're not finished with the SLS yet. As a matter of fact, we haven't even really started yet.
No, I know. That's why we talked about your experiments, because your experiments are going to be good. Like, all right. So one of the points that I was making with the SLS was, if it doesn't have second stage verification, then it's going to be very hard to accept it as legitimate evidence. But what you're doing is you're going to run it with a secondary verification. Doing it that way gives a lot of strength, credibility to the evidence that the SLS picks up. I never said that the SLS doesn't ever catch good evidence. I just said that it's very hard to accept what it catches if it's just standalone. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, and also it can be tampered with as well. People are getting false positives, and they're putting it out there as genuine gospel evidence.
Yeah, but if
well, in fact, a twig or a broom handle can show up as an entity on an SLS camera, and if you don't know what you're dealing with, that's what you're putting out as evidence.
Exactly.
Rubbish as evidence, So you need to confirm it. When I go at it, I will have triple cameras on it. Triple, triple.
No, that's awesome.
And if anybody wants to argue with that, well, then I don't know what to say. I just don't know.
No, I think with you doing it the way that you're doing it, you're going to give some strength to the SLS. You're going to show people how to use it the right way, which is great. And I think that it can be an effective tool if you have somebody like you who's used it as much as you used it, and you can recognize the false positives, and you can recognize all this stuff. And then when you see the real stuff and you have second verification with it, SLS evidence coming from you is going to be a lot different than SLS coming from somebody who's on day 2 of using the SLS camera,
Well, you know the way I feel about it. You know how strongly I feel about it. And that's why I'm kind of committed now to getting this done and showing, yes, it works. But that's not to say that there aren't a load of cowboys out there just blackguarding people, taking them for fools and showing them a load of BS and saying it's evidence. That is happening. But that happens in every walk of life, even with an ordinary camera, So it goes on, and there's nothing we can do about it, only try and watch out for them and maybe expose them wherever we see it. That could be a good idea.
But I think, PJ, you're hitting on a good point. That's kudos to your team, is that you're trying to educate people by doing these experiments on what can happen, what it could be. When you're doing experiments like that, paranormal research is trying to catch evidence, research, but you're going to educate people. And I think that the education part in using these forms of equipment is lacking at this time. So I think you'll be doing a public service to a lot of people that are just starting out by education is key.
Well, I hope so, because it's costing me a small fortune now just to prove this point. And I hope for my own sake that I do manage to prove something. Either one way or the other, I'm not fussed. If it turns out that the SLS is only a toy, so be it. And if it turns out that it is actually a genuine good tool in the proper hands, that's even better.
Well, you said it the right way there. I think it's a good tool in the proper hands, which now the proper hands meaning somebody who understands its downfalls, its the fact that it can be manipulated, that it can give false positives, which you understand this. But it doesn't matter, because you were talking about exposing people that are tampering with it. The thing is, when it comes to paranormal research in the paranormal research community and with true investigators, yes, important to expose people. But you're going to have this whole group of people that's just out for entertainment purposes, and they're not going to care if they're tampering with it. They just want the shock factor,
Oh yeah, because you're talking dollars, you're talking kudos. That's at the end of the day, that's all that matters for those guys. But there are genuine guys out there who are in it just for the love of doing it, and they don't get $1. Only all they spend buying equipment. And I, for one, I'm one of those guys. All I'm doing so far is spending and spending and spending.
Yeah. And
investing an awful lot of time, and my crew are investing an awful lot of their time. So it would be nice if we could just say, yes, guys, the SLS is a really important tool if it's used correctly by the right people. Or, lads, forget about it. It's rubbish.
No,
I don't care which way it goes, but I want to be able to prove it beyond all doubt, one way or the other.
Right. I agree. I agree with you 100%, man. And obviously, we really like your team. We like Paranormal Awakenings Ireland. We like you, Philip, PJ. If we didn't think y'all had credibility, we definitely wouldn't continually have you associated. You know what I mean? So obviously, we're having you back because we know that you're really putting in the work, putting in the time that you need to put in. You're not just running out there capturing something and throwing it up,
Well, we may have done in the past, but everybody's got to start somewhere. But we're at this a long time now, so we're we're fairly well schooled in the ways of paranormal, but back in the early days, I suppose we made mistakes just like everyone else.
Hey,
we're still learning along the way. You know, we're not. You could be at it for 20 years and you're still not going to be an expert. And it's like everyday life. It's like every day with a job. You're still going to learn along the way. You're still going to find new things that you had forgotten about, or you learn along the way. You know.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. You know, you can't say you know it all because you'll never know it all. You can't.
It's all part of the fun of it, also. You know?
No, you never learn it all, and even we made mistakes when we first started too, and we made a lot of mistakes actually. And I think because you wanting the evidence so bad that you're willing to believe something without really scrutinizing it when you first start out.
That's another issue. That's another issue. There's times you'd be out there and you're actually wishing something would happen.
Yeah.
And so your mind kind of maybe tricks you into believing that something has happened. Whereas if you're cool, calm, and collective and look at it properly, you won't be long figuring out what did or didn't happen. But you'll always be wanting something to happen. That's never going to go. Our job then is to find out did it happen. You know.
Well, perfect example of that's that 31-second clip you sent me that has all these faces in it, and you were just showing me the test run for the thermal. And how it was interacting when all this other stuff was in that 31-second clip.
Yeah, and I can't for the life of me say where that is.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, man, it was great having you on the show, and as always, we really appreciate both of y'all taking the time to network with us. You know.
It was good talking to you, Tim, and thanks for having us.
Good having you guys.
All right,
thanks.
Man.
Thank you.